Hello, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC.
Hi, I'm Megan, a licensed New York City tour guide and founder of The Megan Daily, a YouTube channel dedicated to helping you have your very best New York City experience.
This video is going to be a little bit different than what I usually post on this channel. I traveled all the way here to New York City so that Megan and I can compare and contrast Washington, D.C. and New York.
So if you're visiting Washington, D.C. or New York, make sure that you check out our favorite spots in each city.
This video is part one of a 2-video collaboration, so make sure to head over to the Megan Daily to watch the other video in this series. I'll put a link to that down in the description. And with that said, let's get started. Of course, the most famous park in Washington, D.C. is this one, the National Mall. Technically speaking, the National Mall is this big lawn that runs from the Capitol to the Washington Monument. Lots of people, however, also refer to the park down to the Lincoln Memorial and the tidal basin over by the Jefferson Memorial as the National Mall too. And you know what? I think that's okay. When you come to Washington, D.C., especially when it's your first time, you're going to spend a lot of time in this area because this is where all the famous national monuments and museums are located. Yes, of course, I'm talking about the Smithsonian museums, but I'm also talking about the National Gallery of Art, the U.S. Botanic Gardens, and others, which are technically not part of the Smithsonian, but are still amazing. The mall is also famous because it's been the site of many, many historic moments in U.S. history, from inaugurations to marches and everything in between.
Without a doubt, the most famous park in New York City is Central Park. Central Park has been featured in over 200 different movies. Everything from Home Alone to Lost in New York, to Elf, to Enchanted, to The Avengers, to Doctor Who, to Gossip Girl have been filmed here in Central Park. Central Park is gorgeous, so it is a destination for lots of people who want to take photos. It's very, very common to see wedding photo shoots taking place here and fashion photo shoots. Central Park is huge. You could spend days and days and days in here and not see everything. My favorite way to enjoy 1 hour in Central Park is to enter at 72nd Street and Central Park West, and then walk east and emerge at 76th Street and 5th Avenue. This walk will take you past the Imagine Mosaic, which celebrates the life of John Lennon, Bethesda Terrace, which is possibly the most recognizable area of Central Park, past the Loeb Boathouse, which was featured in 27 dresses and where you can get a very nice meal and possibly even rent a rowboat to row out on the lake. And then you will emerge on the east side where you can get to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is actually inside of Central Park, or the Central Park Zoo, which was featured in the movie Madagascar.
I wouldn't say that the Yards Park is one that locals would say is underappreciated, but I would say that it is often overlooked by visitors, probably because it's overshadowed by the National Mall and the big federal sites, which is too bad because it's one of the coolest parks where you can come and just spend an entire day. If you have kids and you're here in the summer, they can play in the pool or splash around in the dancing fountain. For the adults, there are plenty of places where you can sit outside, grab a beer, and something to eat. And then you can stop at my favorite local ice cream shop in DC, Ice Cream Jubilee. Plus, there are special events happening here all the time. In the summer, there are free outdoor concerts on the lawn every Friday night. And in December, there's always some kind of cool art installation for the holidays. This park is just a stone's throw from a Nationals game. So if you're here for baseball, just walk down the boardwalk and you'll be here in 5 minutes.
For the most underappreciated park, I'm gonna go with Flushing Meadows Corona Park out in Queens. Now, one of the reasons why I think that it's underappreciated is because it is out in Queens. It's not the easiest park to get to, but it is definitely worth the trip. Probably the most recognizable feature of Flushing Meadows Corona Park is the giant Unisphere, which is a 140-foot tall globe that was placed there for the 1964 World's fair. Corona Park is also home to the Queen's Museum, which is a really cool museum. It also is home to a panorama display of New York City. If you're a baseball fan, Corona Park is right next to the stadium where the Mets play. Corona Park is also home to different sporting arenas. There is an ice skating rink there. There is an area where you can rent little paddle boats, and there's a mini golf course. So there's truly something for everyone out in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park.
The best skyline view of Washington, D.C. is across the Potomac River here in Arlington, Virginia. Just to the south of the Marine Corps Iwo Jima Memorial is a 217-foot tall tower called the Netherlands Carillon. It was given in the 1950s from the people of the Netherlands to the people of the United States and dedicated in 1960. It's a thank you to the United States for helping free the Netherlands from Germany and the financial support provided after World War II. The grounds nearby provide an amazing view of the National Mall. You can see the Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, Capitol Dome, and many others. So if you're coming to this side of town to go to Arlington Cemetery or the Iwo Jima, make sure to stop by and take in the view.
For the best views in New York City, I actually recommend going to Brooklyn. You thought I was going to say an observation deck, didn't you? We do have 5 incredible observation decks in New York City, and you should definitely visit at least one of them. But my favorite place to get spectacular New York City views is actually an area of Brooklyn that's right underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. It's called Fulton Ferry Landing. And here at Fulton Ferry Landing, you get spectacular views of the Brooklyn Bridge. You can see One World Trade Center. You actually can see all of our tall skyscrapers from here. It is the best place to see the Manhattan skyline. The Manhattan skyline is one of the most iconic skylines in all the world. When you go to an observation deck, you're going to get to see all of those tall buildings from above. You get a bird's eye view. But here at Fulton Ferry Landing, you get to see the skyline the way that you see it in movies and television shows and works of art.
Lots of people who visit Washington, D.C. get tickets to go up inside the Washington Monument for the view, which is nice. But I personally prefer the view from the old post office tower. You can see it peeking right over my shoulder right here. It's only about half as tall as the Washington Monument, but since it's taller than all the other buildings around it, it still has amazing views. And unlike the Washington Monument, you get views straight down Pennsylvania Avenue, which is pretty cool, and of the Washington Monument itself. When you visit, make sure you know that the entrance for the tower is at the back of the building next to the Starbucks, not on the front of the building on Pennsylvania Avenue. I actually have a video with detailed instructions for checking it out if you want to go yourself. And when you do, enjoy the view.
The most underappreciated view in New York City, in my opinion, comes from the High Line. The High Line is an elevated park built on an abandoned elevated railroad track. And from the High Line, you can see so many famous New York City buildings and sites. So you can see the Empire State Building from here, you can see Hudson Yards, and you can even see the Statue of Liberty way off in the distance. Another exciting feature of the High Line is that they've actually created sort of a cinema that looks into the city. So for example, if you walk into this area, it's actually lowered, and you can sit on these benches and look out through those windows and see the traffic below. So New York City becomes the movie.
It's hard to argue that the best free thing to do in Washington, D.C. is check out the Smithsonian Museums. This is the Castle building behind me. It's the headquarters of the Smithsonian. But all up and down the National Mall, you will find awesome individual museums. Are you into aerospace? How about history or art? There are several awesome museums concentrated right around here, and then a whole bunch of others scattered around the city. The coolest thing about the Smithsonian Museums is that because there's so much to choose from, no matter what you like, there's something for you. And the exhibits are constantly rotating, so even if you've been here on a previous trip, there might be something new. If you do it right, you should never get bored. But make sure to give yourself plenty of time because museum fatigue is very real.
When it comes to free things to do in New York City, you really can't beat the Staten Island Ferry. Technically, the Staten Island Ferry is a commuter ferry. It runs between the island of Manhattan and Staten Island. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And the very best part is on its way to Staten Island, it gets you really close to the Statue of Liberty. So it's a great way of giving yourself a free Statue of Liberty sightseeing cruise. I like to plan ahead and plan my Staten Island Ferry cruise for sunset. That is the most spectacular time for photographs, and I just think that a gorgeous red or orange or purple sunset is the perfect backdrop for the Statue of Liberty.
And hey, if you made it this far, then I highly recommend that you head over to the Megan Daily for the second part in this two-part video series.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you head on over to my channel and enjoy exploring Washington, D.C. and New York City.
Enjoy your trips.